Okay, I had a request to do a video that shows how you can have students graph using digital resources. And so I'm going to show two different ways you can use Google Slides, and then I'm going to create a separate video showing how you can use Desmos to create an activity directly on Desmos. All right, so I have 8th graders, and one of the things that they have to be able to do is graph equations that are written in slope-intercept form. So that's what I'm going to make this about. So I'm going to start with a direction slide. They're going to graph the equation using the slope and y-intercept. And I'm going to give them some specifics. I want them to make sure that they graph the points given below, and then the line so that it travels through your points. All right, so I'm going to be giving them a grid space. So I'm going to go to Insert Image, search the web. And I'm going to look for blank graph paper. This one's okay, but it isn't super big, so I'm going to have to make sure that I have a pretty small slope so that they have enough room to graph a couple points, but that will work for me. PNG simply means that there isn't any background behind the graph. That's just the graph is there, and that's all we have. All right, so I'm going to provide them with points because I don't want them to have to worry about trying to figure out how to make a circle. So I'm creating here 2 boxes. This box is going to be for their y-intercept. I'm going to give them a point inside that box that they're going to use for y-intercept. And then I'm going to create a box. I'm going to just copy and paste this box. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And this is going to be for their additional points, which they use the slope to add in. So I'm going to color code these. I'm going to make my y-intercept blue. I'm going to make my additional points red. Certainly not necessary, but I just like the aesthetic of that a little bit. All right, so now I need to go find some points that I'm looking for, just a point. And I'm going to put PNG because I want there to be nothing behind the point. And I'm looking for something a little bit more interesting than a plain black point. I like this one here. Looks pretty cool. I'm going to size it way down. It's still big enough that I'll be able to see it on their graph. And then I'm going to look for something I can use for their slope points. All right. Maybe I'll try circle. There we go. All right, I'll use the blue one. If you find something you like, but you don't necessarily like the color, you can go to Format Options, and Recolor, and it'll give you a couple different options there if you want to pick something different. You don't get like every color in the rainbow, unfortunately, but at least gives you a few more options. All right, so I need to give them an equation, and I also want to give them a line that they're going to add in. So I'm going to go ahead and create this line down here. I use the arrow tool. I'm going to make that have an arrow on both ends, and I'm going to make that line a bit thicker. All right, so that's everything they need. I just need to write an equation. So the equation I'm going to use is y equals 1/2 x minus 2. And I might make that highlighted, just I want them to be able to see that equation very easily. All right, so when a student wants to complete this activity, they'll simply come over here, they'll drag their y-intercept point to the y-intercept, then they'll drag their additional points using rise over run, so they should put a point there, and they should put a point there. That looks great. I do want them to add in this line. As you can see, this line is not the right slope right now. So I'm going to either through video or in class, show them how they can add the line there and then simply drag the blue dots until it's where they want it. We're not looking for perfection here. If you can tell that they attempted to get the line through the points, I wouldn't be too worried about it. And then that's how they can graph on Google Slides, one option. I'm going to show you one more way you can set this up. It's pretty similar to what I just did, but you can actually put in a grid space using Equatio, which is a really awesome Chrome extension. So I'm going to do a second question here, starting with some directions, and then I'll show you how you can insert a graph using Equatio. So we're going to say identify the slope and y-intercept of each graph shown. And I'm actually going to put multiple on here. So I'm going to end up putting about 3 graphs. Make my, font the same as the last slide. And I'm going to go over here to my Equatio extension. And right here we have insert math space. Okay, so this is a nice little place where I can put some graphs in. So I'm going to go to Graph Editor. I'm going to put in some graphs. So there's red graph. Got a blue graph. It's automatically changing the color, but you can click right here if you want. Usually it lets you change color. Maybe not in this application. Oh, there we go. You have to go to settings, then you can change the color. And then I'm going to do one more. I don't want 2 that are green, so I'll need to go back and edit one of those. All right, there we go. Okay, so that looks good. And then I'm going to move this over to the side. I actually don't want that to be visible. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Insert Graph. So you can see it's inserted a graph here into my workspace. And then right here, this button is going to insert it into my Google Slides. Boom, there it is. I can resize it if I want to. You can even crop it. You know, they don't need to go down too far because they only have to be able to identify the y-intercept and the slope. I also have a ton of extra space over here that I don't need. So get that a size that you like. Definitely make it a little bit larger. And then I'm going to give them a place where they can record their answers. So I'm going to add a table. I've got line. Which is just going to be where they tell me where I say which line they're looking at. Yeah, so we've got red, green, blue. I need them to tell me the slope of that line. I need them to tell me the y-intercept. There we go. I'm going to fill that in with some color. All right, that looks good. And so then they would simply look at the graph and they would type in what the slope and the y-intercept of each graph are. Definitely check out Equatio. It's pretty awesome. All right, if you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll answer them in the comments.